Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. What I wanted to talk about today has to do with the subject of consciousness and what it is. There have been a lot of videos that have come out recently, and a lot of scientists have been talking about consciousness, and there's been a big search for it. And well, they're kind of going in the wrong direction. So what I wanted to do is to pass on what I've got in reference to consciousness, what it is, and why science is kind of going the wrong direction. Excuse me. In their search for determining consciousness because they're looking in the brain. This is a paper I wrote, so I want to kind of go through that. Uh, this is when I went to nothing, to the point of nothing, I did a video on that. I learned that consciousness is our connection between the spirit world and the physical world, and what we call the spirit and the physical world, even though we both know they're the same, but it's that connection that we have between them. It's what science calls consciousness. They believe it's the activity in the brain, but it's really just a physical awareness of existence, experience, compared to and in relation to the reality around us. Just your awareness of existing because of you have to have something to compare yourself to in order to understand and be aware that you actually exist. That's why we have reality around us. So as I mentioned in my video on what the brain is an allegoric translation of a translator resistor. It translates the vibrations of the reality around us, our current experience, into a physical format via our sensory input, the five senses. Our sensory input determines our view of the world around us, thus our reality, what we see, feel, and so on perceive. The brain restricts the amount of vibrations we can translate based upon our programming, our belief, which is our beliefs and our fears. That's kind of the default programming we come here with, and what we're told as we grow up to believe and what's supposed to be right, and that kind of taints how you see reality. Excuse me. Those who have a lot of strong religious beliefs often will see demons and evil in other things that people who are more spiritual in nature are going to accept as being a normal part of reality. So they say science says we can only use 5 to 10% of our brain, which is when I talk about it's our restrictor as well as our translator. And you can think of it in terms of like a radio that has a dial on it, and the dial only goes so far, so you can only get so many stations. And that's what our default programming, our fears, and our beliefs do to us. It limits how far we can turn the dial on the radio. So the brain controls and operates the body and the five senses through our default programming and our beliefs. These default programs and beliefs are what restrict our translation of the almost infinite number of vibrations around us. It is almost infinite. It's not infinite. These vibrations contain and are all possibilities, including our past, present, and future, which appear in the form of a torsion field. And I've seen this torsion field a couple different times, so I know for a fact that exists, and that is what we are a part of and is around us where reality is. Remember, torsion field, for those of you who don't know, it looks like a glazed donut with energy flowing in multiple directions simultaneously, which is how we can get past in our future. So until you open the conscious connection, our consciousness, what I refer to as consciousness, between the physical and spirit world, your brain's translation of the reality around you through your five senses is limited to the 3D default programming and the limiting beliefs you have come here into this reality with, and you have accepted it's based on friends, family, society, what you've been told, and how things are supposed to be, and science. And remember, I call science the religion of limitation, because they always tell you what you cannot do and how things have to be. Let's say once you open up the consciousness connection, you open what is referred to as the sixth sense, and that allows your brain to translate parts of the vibrational reality around you that are beyond the basic default programming and limiting beliefs of this world. It's called intuition, or that feeling of knowing. And those of you who have experienced it understand what I'm talking about. Those of you that haven't will have a hard time. It's a sixth sense. It's being able to tap into something that exists beyond what you can perceive through your normal senses as it comes to you. You'll understand if you ever experience it. It's the only way you'll really understand it. See, people who can't understand or accept that realities exist beyond what they can sense and can't accept that this reality is not real haven't opened that consciousness connection to their spirit self. You could say they have no spirit connection and are living just within the state of physical awareness as determined by their five senses. Now remember, that connection exists. It's simply they have not opened it because we're always connected to our spirit self because we are the spirit self. But those who are not tuning into it, they're not connecting to it. The scientists who are studying and trying to understand consciousness by looking just at the brain are good examples of people who are living in that world of limited physical awareness and haven't opened their consciousness connection to spirit. It's mostly because there's little or no funding. Hello, Foxy. It's mostly because there's little or no funding for scientists who want to study what is beyond our current physical reality because they can't make money off what doesn't exist in our physical reality, and the people who are funding them are concerned with profits versus knowledge. It'd be nice if we could open our world and allow science to explore what they really want to explore and try to do it for the sake of knowledge and not strictly for the sake of profit. So when they talk about wanting to move the human consciousness to a robot or some other device to keep humans living longer, they will only be moving the human awareness of the mental, physical reality and not the consciousness connection we have to our spirit self. In other words, you will stop growing physically or spiritually at that point. That is why any such move of human awareness to a machine or a computer will not have and will lose that ability to make the consciousness connection to our spirit self. They will not be able to grow spiritually, which is why AI in the transhumanism timeline ended so badly. And that's why those of us that have come back to help change that help us move more to a spiritual timeline. So we're going to be moving past and beyond that concept of transhumanism, which is the AI concept. And remember too, AI is us on a future timeline, which we just talked about. So anyway, that's my understanding of what consciousness is. It is the connection between our physical self and our spiritual self. So with that said, it is not the brain, it is not the mind. And that's where science is wrong, and that's what they're trying to focus on. So that's why they will never discover what it really is. Anyway, have yourself a great day, and I thank you very much.